Chairman. Chairman, I just want to find out from the nominee in an answer to an earlier question about the 56 incidents of attack on the media over the period 2017-2020 and our ranking from 23rd position in 2018 to 30th. He mentioned a lot about what National Media Commission is doing to enhance media freedom in our country. I just want to find out from him, over this period that you were there, you were deputy and then substantive minister, what concrete steps have you taken or have you put in place to enhance media freedom in our country?
Chairman, I've mentioned two specific programs under my leadership, which is us are being institutionalized, would lead us to eventually overcome this challenge. One is the coordinated mechanism for the safety of journalists, which we believe is a big response to protecting media freedoms. That is the one that I've said that we drew up the program working with the NMC, GIJ, GJA, GIBA, and out of that came up with a cabinet memo, went to cabinet, got approval with a caveat that NMC should implement and not us. And we have provided resources to the NMC, and they are on the path to fully executing it. And I used this committee's hearing as a platform to appeal to all who are interested in protecting media freedoms to help support the NMC, including financially and with resources, so that they can excel in utilizing it.
Mr. Chairman, that's where my worry is, because this program, as you may be aware, had been there before you got to your ministry.
Which one? The coordinating?
Yes, the National Comprehensive Framework on Safety of Journalism.
No, I'm not aware of this. And it is this is a program, as I'm speaking about, that we conceptualized right from the beginning. Right. Our media colleagues themselves will tell you about the meetings we had at Lisa Hotel, etc., to put it together. So this is not the national
the comprehensive framework. How different is that from what was there?
Well, I don't even know about it, so that's how come I don't even know.
My worry is that for 4 years, if we've not been able to get its full implementation, what guarantee are you giving us that in the next 4 years, if given the nod, this will be fully implemented?
Chairman, I've been minister for 2 years, and in this 2-year period is when the crisis itself escalated, during which period I've had to put in place this response. My hope is that in the next 4 years, we all will be able to get some support and resourcing for the NMC to fully execute it. The second is the Media Capacity Enhancement Program, which is aimed at building or enhancing capacity. The media has outstanding capacity, but we need to build on it. And that is the other one that I spoke to. So again, for that as well. But that is being led by us directly, but the working group on it is the one that is executing directly.
Mr. Chairman, on 30th May 2018, you and I, our colleague, Honorable Kojo, sat on his radio station and TV, and out of anger from the investigative journalism of Tiger IPI, made a lot of comments, some even attacks, and suggested that persons, if I may quote in tree, he said, if you meet him anywhere, slap him mercilessly. Yes, I said it. Beat him. He added, this is a matter of public. What were at the time, even though I know at that time you were a deputy minister in that sector.
Sorry,
what did
who said that?
Come again.
I had a quote. Who was being quoted?
I was quoting Kenny Japan. And I said that even though during that time he was a deputy minister, what did you do when the member of parliament was issuing all these threats?
Well, Chairman, that specific matter, as I'm sure you are aware, is still the subject of ongoing police investigation. I would pray your indulgence that I do not make any comments on it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, will he agree that such acts are attack on media freedom?
Chairman, I think in my earlier responses, I have said quite clearly that no amount of harassment or verbal or physical attack should be inflicted on the media, even if we think that it is indulging in what some may describe as irresponsible conduct. Because for some, it is because that is the only way they know. And what we ought to do is to support them with training and resources so that they get on the right path. I believe that my comments express clearly how I feel about that matter.
So you agree that that was an attack on media freedom?
Chairman, as I mentioned, I believe that my comments express how I feel on that matter.
So you agree that that was an attack on media freedom?
Honorable
Mr. Chairman, this is a very straightforward yes, no. Because you have said, the Constitution has said so, and you have also expressed that yes, regardless of whatever happened, harassment, attack, and probably even worse, murder,
Honorable Member, I think you can make your own interpretation from his statement, but if you agree, is asking for an opinion, which you know our rules don't have. So your interpretation is up to you, but please leave him out of that.
Yes, so I just want to hear you. So you agree that that action...
Chairman, it goes without saying. I have expressed how I feel about it. I believe it goes without saying that, yes, that is my position.
Unfortunately, even though you yourself, you were a practitioner, and at that time you were deputy minister, I never heard you condemn this. Why?
Well, Chairman, the truth is that at that material moment, I honestly was not aware of this matter until after the fact, when all of these things came up. Chairman, there are 500 and so radio stations across the country. Not everything that happens on those platforms come to my attention in real time. In this particular instance, as you talk about, I believe even for many of us, it was after the fact that the associated matters became publicly known. So it will not be out of 10 that you would not have heard me at that time, because it was not something I was aware of.
But when it did come out, with the videos and the comments, I never heard you
because when it did come up, it was also now a matter of a subject of police investigation, and I cannot prejudice that.
No, but condemning an act does not in any way interfere with investigation.
Condemning the act, Chairman, we have today before you, I have extensively spoken about why I do not believe that media should be attacked or harassed in any way. I think my position on that is very clear. But on a specific matter that was under investigation at the time it came to public limelight, I pray my leader to bear with me that it would not have been appropriate for me to be speaking on ongoing investigations.
Mr. Chairman, for the avoidance of doubt, I've heard him speak earlier on the murder of Ahmed Swaleh and how you were saying that's the perception, that is even you yourself, that's also the impression that you're also carrying, the suspicion. It's been over 2 years. Has government found any contrary position to the fact that he was murdered because of the work that he did?
The police have not told us so.
So long as we are concerned, he was murdered because of the work that he did, and that was attack on the...
Yeah, that's a suspicion that we are all operating with.
So you agree
including myself, that's a suspicion that we are all operating with.
So you agree with the international press freedom when they add the murder of Ahmed Swaleh as part of those who have died in the line of their duty?
To the extent that no contrary evidence has been provided, yes, I would agree with them.
Honourable Member, what is the basis of that conclusion? Have they provided any evidence to suggest that?
Evidence has been provided to suggest otherwise. I will not fault an international organization that therefore proceeds on the generally suspected view and adds it to their rankings.
What do you then say to those who claim that, well, it's sad, it's unfortunate for people to say that the murder of Ahmed Swaleh is an attack on press freedom? What do you say to people who claim that it is sad and unfortunate that the murder of Ahmed Swaleh is being counted as attack on media freedom?
Well, I think that they need to understand the context within which some of these statistics, etc., are put together. Because unless you have some contrary evidence, the generally suspected view is what will be applied in this case. But this is also why, Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to have a mechanism that helps us to validate, to track, to follow up, to put pressure on the entities that must work.
So do you remember the president saying this himself? Our president saying this himself?
Saying what?
That it's unfortunate that the death of Ahmed Saleh is being associated with attack on media freedom.
If those are his words, I think that is also understandable because, like I've explained, you either have contrary evidence or how those who are accounting for it on the global platforms will be to add it.
But for the president of our country, where we, our constitution, and as people, we tout ourselves in the freedom of expression of the individual, do you think that this was a good thing for the president to say that it's sad and unfortunate that people are associating the death of Ahmed Saleh to attack on press freedom?
Yes, because it would have been best if the police had come to a conclusion on that investigation so that that matter can be settled. To that extent that it is not done, it's a sad spectacle.
Honorable Nominee, do you remember in July 2019 in London during the Global Media Freedom Conference? This is what you said. It is very disappointing that a case of Ahmed Saleh as high profile like that which worked us back on press freedom has remained unresolved. Why did you, and unquote, why did you say this, work us back on press freedom, if you didn't believe, or if you would support those who say it is sad and unfortunate that his death is being associated with
because, Chairman,
press freedom?
consistent with the conversation we've been having, until you have contrary evidence, it will be added and it will walk us back.
Now, as the Minister for Information and also maybe a former practitioner in the media setting, since the death of Ahmed Saleh, is there any steps that you have taken to help speed up the investigation? Because it's been 2 years, it's over 2 years, and no information is forthcoming from the...
Chairman, the President's representative at the Ministry for the Interior will be the first to attest to the regularity of my queries to him on how far they have come on that. As you do know, investigations are within the ambit of the police, that is under the Interior Ministry. I cannot bypass him and go directly to the agencies. But he will be the first to speak to the regularity with which I request for an update from him. Because the truth is that it's not a pleasant thing for that thing to be hanging around our press freedom record. It will be important for the police to come to the bottom of it, find the persons responsible, and bring them to account. I do concede that sometimes investigations take time, even in the best of police environments, but I think we cannot stop but continuously remind the police that that is an outstanding matter that must be resolved.
Mr. Chairman, when a journalist on Munti FM is said to have threatened the life of the president, can you hear me? I'm saying that when a journalist on Munti FM is alleged to have threatened the life of the president, he was arrested and is facing trial. When the Honorable Ofosu Ampofu, the national chairman of NDC, is alleged to have threatened the chair of EC, he is facing trial. So why is our colleague, Honorable Kenneth Oppong, who said all he did before the murder of Ahmed Saleh, is not facing trial?
Chairman, with respect, the police and the prosecutorial authorities will be best placed to answer that question. I am incapable of providing an answer to that.
Mr. Chairman, I often hear you advising journalists and media organizations to practice responsible journalism in their media organization. Is that right? Most of the time when you are talking to your colleagues, I keep hearing you say...
No, that is not correct, Chairman. One of the first things I speak about is the safety of journalists. Today before you, the first program I've spoken about is the coordinated mechanism for the safety of journalists. Today before you, I have been extensively advocating for media freedoms and why we should protect and support journalists. So if there's a supposition that I'm only heard advising or calling for responsible journalism, that is an incorrect supposition.
Mr. Chairman, I want to take him through the independence of the state-owned media and National Media Commission. The Chairman, they all made reference to the Chapter 12 of the Constitution. The state-owned media, Graphic, GBC, Times, GNA, are supposed to be insulated from government control. To ensure this, the Constitution placed the management and oversight of this state-owned media under the National Media Commission. That is why, even though the state-owned media are seen as agencies under Information Ministry, which he heads, or he was the minister then, it is the National Media Commission and not any minister that appoints the board of the state-owned media, and the board in turn appoints the Director General of the state-owned media. Are you aware of the letter that was written by the Minister for Communication to the Director General of Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, directing GBC to cede or give out 3 of their digital broadcasting channels? Are you aware?
Yes, Chairman, I think I answered that and gave an elaborate account of what my understanding of it was and what the current situation is.
I just want to find out whether you, as the Minister for Information, was consulted. Whether the Minister for Communication did consult you as the Minister for Information, who, I wouldn't want to say play oversight over GBC, but GBC is one of the agencies under you. Did she consult you?
Chairman, I've already explained that the narrative out there that the Minister directed GBC to shut down 6 channels is not correct. The Minister invited GBC and a number of, at least one other station that had more than 2 channels on their multiplex to a meeting and discussed with them the need to have redundancies and gave them, if I'm correct, I think an 8-week period within which they should consult their boards and management on which of their channels they could cede and the 2 that they would like to keep on the platform. It was during this period that this story came out that the Minister had directed them to shut down 6 of their channels. So, Chairman, I think that must be put in its right context. But specifically to answer your question, the Minister consulted me that she intends to have a conversation with the channel operators to explore how they could create redundancies on the multiplex platform. So I was surprised when I saw the story out there that the Minister had instructed them to shut down their channel, because the Minister cannot do that.
Are you saying that there's no any letter from the Minister for Communication to the Director General of GBC to this effect? It was only in a meeting and discussions?
Chairman, I have cited a letter from the Minister to the Director General capturing the conversation that took place at the meeting and reiterating the fact that in 8 weeks' time they should revert on which of their channels they would cede and which of the 2 channels they would like to keep. That I have cited. But a letter that says that shut down 6 of your channels, I have not cited any.
And Mr. Chairman, you think that you, being the minister under which the agency GBC is, was not the one to do that, but Minister for Communication should just inform you to go ahead to do that, and you think that that is right?
Chairman, the DTT platform is not operated by the ministry responsible for information. It's a platform operated under the Ministry of Communications. It is their platform, like DSTV belongs to MultiChoice, or MultiTV belongs to, I think, KNet, or any other transmission platform. So I could not have been the one creating redundancies on a transmission platform that is not under my supervision, number 1. Number 2, what the Minister did was to consult me that this is what she desires to do in consultation with her team on that platform that is managed by them, and that she would like to engage with GBC on how to do that. And she proceeded so to do. And so the letter I cited, Chairman, as I mentioned, essentially was about that engagement. I have not cited a letter that says that shut down 6 channels. And that's why I make the distinction.
Mr. Chairman, I want to find out from you whether the National Media Commission, whose mandate under our Constitution was to oversight GBC, was consulted.
Chairman, I believe that that would be appropriately put to the Communications Minister. I was consulted.
Because they are an agency under you, that was why I asked you, and you said that you were informed by the Minister for Communication. So you should be able to be in the know to know whether National Media Commission was consulted.
Well, Chairman, as I mentioned, in my opinion, respectfully, the best person to respond to that will be the Minister for Communications.
So you are not aware whether the National Media Commission was consulted or not?
Chairman, I have not said so. I have suggested that
so
the
I'm
best
asking
person
you
to
whether
respond,
you were aware they were
the best
consulted or
person to
not.
respond to whether or not they were consulted will be the Minister responsible for communication.
No, but you are working with both the National Media Commission and the GBC, and you said here that the minister did talk to you or consulted you before engaging Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. And I'm asking you whether you are in the know that she did consult National Media Commission. This is a very simple yes or no.
Well, Chairman, I do not have any information to that effect.
So you are not sure whether she did or she didn't?
I do not have any information
Honorable
to that effect.
Chief Whip, please move on. He has answered that question about 5 times.
What would you say to those who say the attempt to take over the channels of Ghana Broadcasting Corporation without consulting the National Media Commission was a usurpation of the powers of the National Media Commission and an attempt to disregard the National Media Commission in the affairs of the state broadcaster?
Chairman, if there was no consultation, then that will be the case. But as I mentioned, I am not able to respond to that question as I said before you.
What will you do as the sector minister, if approved, to avert a situation of some of their channels being taken in future?
Chairman, as I've mentioned, there's a GBC reorganization program which includes which platforms they will be operating on, how many of their channels they intend to put on those platforms, how they will be funded, what their legislation says. It's an entire program that the National Media Commission is leading for us to execute. It's my expectation that that program will respond to all of these outstanding concerns about GBC.
Others are of the view that our current structure, where the National Communication Authority authorizes and supervises the authorization certificate of frequencies to FM stations and TV stations, should be something that should have rather been under the National Media Commission. What is your view on this?
As in the frequency authorization?
Yes, authorizations.
Chairman, I don't share that view.
Oh, why?
Because the usage of frequency is not just by media. And so a body that is dedicated to the management of frequency, distinct from the National Media Commission, which is a constitutional creature with its functions, is the best placed body to handle authorization matters.
Mr. Chairman, in an earlier answer to a question about the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, he said the process was not completed and he believed that the implementation hadn't started. Just for the avoidance of doubt, I just want to be sure whether this was a public entity or a private entity.
Honestly, Chairman, my recollection of the type of entity is not very clear. I honestly do not recall what type of entity that it was. There were, and that's why in answer to the earlier question, I said the parts of that conversation that I recall include the constitution of the board, which I wrote to the Honorable Minister about, which we are in the process of working on. Unfortunately, it could not be completed before the term ended.
And this company was supposed to more or less regulate the flow of the TV channels in the country, is that right?
No,
if I heard the Minister for Communication right, even though she's not sitting in the chair, that it was just providing an asphalt for every vehicle to be able to pass on, whether it is an articulator or a Kia or a taxi, so that it's just a provision of asphalted road that will be accessed by everybody.
Chairman, my recollection is that the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited is not a regulator. It's a transmission service company where companies that are authorized plug in and transmit their content through their equipment.
So you are not sure whether it's a public entity or a private entity? You couldn't answer.
Chairman, I have answered earlier by suggesting that my recollection of the type of entity is not clear. I do not recall what type of entity it was. What I recall was to do with the issues of the board constitution, which I made representations, and which and other matters are still residual matters that we expect.
Mr. Chairman, if you were sending reps to a board, I thought it's only fair that you should be interested in knowing which board you are sending your representative on.
Chairman, we were not sending reps to the board. We were having a conversation about the composition of the board of the company. And we made representations to that effect of what we think the board of the company ought to look like and who should be on the board. That is the furthest that we went on that conversation.
And when this company is also going to include some of the state-owned media passing through it, wouldn't you be worried to find out what kind of board it was going to be?
Well, Chairman, as I've mentioned in our consultations, we're not at that stage yet. We're talking about who ought to be on this board when it is created. And those were the representations that we were going through.
Because if it was going to involve state-owned media, I mean, as a member of parliament, as Minister of State, as a media practitioner yourself, you want to be saying that, oh, then let's refer to the act that established it, so that we can see what the act says, who and who should be on it. But once we are proposing persons onto it, there's no any legislative, there's no any existing law or instrument that was guiding that. Obviously, you should be worried as a minister.
Yes, Chairman, that is why I've said that there are residual matters that need to be dealt with on that particular project. And my understanding is that it has not been completed. And for example, these concerns that the honorable member raises, I believe, can all be accommodated in the conversations that will ensue.
Will you say that, even though this was asked earlier about the absence of National Media Commission being on that board, will you say that such a company, organization, or agency should rather be operating under the National Media Commission?
No, Chairman, I would not say you should be operating under the National.
No, I haven't said you said. I'm saying that I'm of the view that if it's going to be providing access for television channels and what have you, because of our constitutional structure, this should rather be under National Media Commission.
Yes, and Chairman, I'm saying that I do not share that view. I believe that the National Media Commission must have a role to play. I have made representations on how I think that should be structured, or let me say my ministry has made representations. We're in the process of having those conversations on those residual matters. I don't think we should prejudice it by trying to resolve it here on this floor. As I mentioned, with your leave, if I do get into that office, I believe we can deal with those residual matters.
Mr. Chairman, will you be surprised if I show you the profile of the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, and on their registered profile, it shows that they were going to be a private entity? Will you be surprised?
That they were going to
they were registered to partake a private activity.
Well, Chairman, as I've mentioned, the knowledge as I have of this matter is the discussions that are ongoing. If there's any additional information, if it's made available to me, I believe that we can factor it into the residual conversations.
If, after you leave here, you confirm that this is a private entity, will you advise a private entity to be doing this that involves state-owned media and other property other property that are state-owned?
Chairman, I think like the expression goes, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. When we are seized with all the rationalization and the reasons for whatever proposals this may be, we'll have an opportunity to have a discussion on it.
Well, Honorable Nominee, do you own any media house in Ghana?
Yes, I do.
What's the name?
I own ABC Communications Limited, or I'm a shareholder in ABC Communications Limited that operates a radio station in Achimota.
What of MX24?
MX24. That will be a television station.
Yeah, is it yours, or do you have a share in it?
No, I do not have shares in it.
Did you apply in last parliament for members holding profits?
Yes, I did, and was certified as such.
So you did,
yes,
just to be sure that you can carry out your business activities.
Absolutely.
Only the Chairman, just have you declared your assets as required under the 1992 Constitution?
Yes, I have, on the assumption of office and upon the exit of office.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, so in that case, you are both a policy maker and you oversight, and you are also a participant in the media arena.
When you say participant, you mean as a shareholder?
Yes.
Well, yes, to that extent, yes, I'm a shareholder.
So you are both a policy maker and somebody who oversights, and you also a participant.
Well, as I've explained, to the extent that I'm a shareholder, I'm one of the shareholders, you can say so.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to find out the television station, when was the frequency issued? When was the frequency issued? The frequency for the television MX24 issued?
I would not know.
But is it when you were Minister for Communication, Minister for Information?
I would not know. I am not a shareholder of that company. I would not know.
You are not a shareholder in the MX24?
No.
Mr. Chairman, during the COVID and its reportage, since the outbreak, has government extended any financial assistance to any media houses that you know?
Chairman, no, not that I'm aware of. I have made representations that where funding is available and is possible, we should support the media because, one, the media has been taking a lot of risks, going out there interviewing people associated with COVID in these risky times, and two, COVID and the economic slowdown has also affected how the media business is operating. I am advised that as resources improve and as we continue to support various sectors of the economy, that will be considered.
Chairman, in an answer to an earlier question about the Presidential Task Force, you said that you were not privy to the nitty-gritties of the agreement. Is that the understanding?
I've never used the word nitty-gritties here, Chairman. I have not said so.
You said you are not privy to the details. Is that what you said?
I have not said so. I have explained my participation at the task force, the instruction to the Ghana Airport Company Limited, what they did and the detail that they brought back to the task force. And I have suggested that the transport minister may be in a position to provide any further details that this committee may be looking
at. But you don't have any details on the agreement, do you?
No, I do not have details on the agreement.
And since the issue became topical, people talking about it, the minority then issued a press statement and a press conference. You never find it necessary to find the details as information minister.
The brief as I have is sufficient to me. If there are any specific details that I may be required to look for, maybe if you ask of some specific detail that ordinarily I should have, maybe I can answer you on that one.
When the company, the Frontier Health Service Limited, was registered in Ghana, do you have that information?
No.
Whether they have operated
about when the company was registered in Ghana?
Yes. Whether they have operated any laboratory in Ghana?
No, because they are not details that in the ordinary course of my work it will come to my attention or that are required to be known at this point in time. I have not heard so far any claims, for example, that the procurement was done out of order or that there's anything questionable about this organization to arouse my interest in going fishing.
But, Honorable,
for that.
Nominee, you are a lawyer. He said so. In an ordinary agreement, will those details be contained in any such agreement?
I'm not even sure, Chairman, if the recitals will be in that agreement.
It's not
even if it will be in the recitals of that agreement, I'm not sure.
But Mr. Chairman, the interesting thing is that when issues come up from any government sector, normally here you come out, you articulate, and you try to get the final details to be able to feed the public about their doubts, about what the facts are, But I'm surprised that when it came to these frontier health services, most of the questions that are being asked, the procurement method that was used, who are the owners? Do they operate any laboratory? How are they operating at the airport? How do they arrive at their charges? You don't find it necessary to acquire this information and be able to educate the public?
Educate the public, Chairman, on when the company was incorporated, etc., may not necessarily be what I would desire to do. The biggest thing I've heard, which I think has warranted my attention and my curiosity, has been on the cost of the testing, about $150 initially, and then now cut down to $50 for Ghanaian and ECOWAS citizens. I have inquired about why. I'm told that that is the agreed price between the airport company limited and the private service provider who was providing it. But beyond that, I mean, Leader, with respect, issues of date of incorporation, etc., will not ordinarily fit in my line of work.
Mr. Chairman, in an earlier answer to a question about whether it's not very clear, the company that you own is in your CV, yeah, where you are the managing director, West Brownstone Capital. Is that the name? In an earlier answer, you said that they didn't have any outstanding liability with over microfinance.
No.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Is that for a fact? Because you're under oath.
Yes.
Well, there's information from Bank of Ghana that indicated that they have their outstanding of 212,751 point something. Is it accurate?
No, I would contest that. And I would believe that if this is information that you desire to verify, I'm sure the Bank of Ghana can verify whether this is true or not.
But you are also a majority shareholder in the OVA Microfinance.
Yes, that's what I referred to. My company was a shareholder in it.
And did you borrow from Unibank?
Did I do what?
Yes, the operations of the OVA Microfinance.
Did I borrow from OVA Microfinance?
The OVA Microfinance borrow or took any loans from Unibank or Unisecurity?
I would not have the full details on who they took a loan from.
But you are 82% shareholder in there, right?
Yes, but there are directors and managers who run the organization, Leader.
And if before that company could take a loan, obviously the directors will have to be in the loan. And you are a director.
No, shareholder.
You are a shareholder. And you are the lion shareholder because 82%. And yes. You think that if they are going for a loan, you will not be in the loan?
Leader, in their ordinary line of business, they used to raise liabilities to create assets. They would not come back to me on every single one of those.
Are you aware that they have defaulted in payment of their loan that they took from Unibank, Unisecurity?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Mr. Chairman, very lastly, on 6 April 2020, the dirty dollar, the DW dirty dollar, they wrote to you about an assault of one Mr. Yusuf Abdul Ghani, who works for Zuria FM in Kumasi, about an assault from a military lady. And the letter was signed by Christophe Jompe, that's the head of corporate communications and PR, requesting that the matter be investigated. I don't know whether, did you receive that letter from DW?
I'm not sure. They wrote to me where, at the ministry or their personal capacity or where?
Yeah, the letter.
This was a hand-delivered letter?
The letter was dated 6 April 2020.
No,
about
Chairman,
an incident that happened on 5th of April 2020. You never received that letter?
No, I do not know if there's a stamp from the ministry that says this letter was received from the ministry on that day or on any day. I don't know of this.
Mr. Chairman, he said that So far as is concerned, Manasseh Azure did not leave this country because he felt threatened. Is that the impression that I got in the answer that you said?
No, I have not said that. I said the information that was available to me was that he reported that his life was under threat. With the help of the National Security Minister, we provided him with a police guard. He subsequently left the country. He himself, I never heard say that he had gone into exile because his life was under threat. It was Professor Kwame Kakari who, in delivering a lecture, said so. Do I doubt him? And I went further to say that, no, I don't, but it is one of those matters that we have to get a framework that allows us, like all of the other matters I've spoken about, to validate. I have not said the words that you...
But you remember how you disagree with him vehemently when he did the documentary about the tax that were training.
Yes, I recall. Yes, I recall.
And how he was taken to National Media Commission.
I led the government report to the National Media Commission.
And then subsequently you were seeking multimedia to apologize.
Yes.
And you thought that all those things do not fall under Article 1624, where it talks about the harassment that you said your government has complied with throughout the 4 years.
Chairman, no. Article 166 provides for the National Media Commission, membership now of 18, following the amendment by Act 527, which, among other things, if you take Article 167B, says to take all appropriate measures to ensure the establishment and maintenance of the highest journalistic standards in the mass media, including the investigation, mediation, and settlement of complaints made against or by the press or other mass media. Our report of multimedia and my good friend Manasseh to the National Media Commission was not out of hatred or dislike or malice. It was because we disagreed with the piece of journalism they had put together. And Chairman, if you observe the petitioners we sent to the National Media Commission, we were profuse in even saying that we hold the station and its work in high esteem. But in this particular instance, we disagree with the work that they had done. I don't believe that reporting them to the NMC for adjudication amounts to harassment.
Mr. Chairman, the nominee is a lawyer, am I right? Your CV says so.
That is correct.
Practicing one or?
No, I'm not practicing at the moment.
I noticed that after the Supreme Court hearing, you are one of those who give the commentary, right?
That is correct.
And also the President representative at the Ministry of Information.
That is correct.
So when you are giving that brief, how are you doing that to a private citizen, or in what capacity are you doing that?
Oh, I think the designation is very clear in that instance that I am the lead spokesperson for the President's legal team. I think that designation has been clearly announced. So when I speak there, I speak as lead spokesperson for the President's legal team, explaining the legal positions as have been advanced in court, explaining the view of the second respondent, and responding sometimes to comments that may have been made by the spokespersons for the petitioner's legal team.
So how do you then separate or differentiate your role in speaking for the state and speaking for candidate Akufo-Addo?
So, Chairman, how we do that is that very often we try to let our address be known. So there are many instances in which, during our briefs, we say that this is the position of the Akufo-Addo administration. In fact, I think my colleagues in the media will tell you that I am the one who profusely uses that expression, that the Akufo-Addo administration, and that there is one government of Ghana. This is the view of the government of Ghana. And then when we are speaking for the state as well, we're able to make that distinction. We try very hard to make that distinction clear.
Very last, who is Kwame Oppong Nkrumah, the chairman of Uber Microfinance?
That's my father.
That's
my father.
Oh, that's your father. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to ask any questions? Yes.